Good morning again, everyone. So I think I've recovered for the most part, but you'll have to excuse some raspiness in my voice as well as some bags under my eyes, recovering from the Easter Vigil that took place last night. So we were in St. Peter's Church till about 11 p.m. with a packed church, and we received 5 new adult members into the Catholic faith. Some people, you remember the big baptismal font there, some people got dunked, baptized. It's quite the celebration. But it brings me to a few questions for today. What are we celebrating? And why does it matter to you and me? And if it does matter, then what is expected of you and me going forward? Those are the 3 questions on my mind today. So first, what are we celebrating? What's so special about today that makes it different from every other Sunday? Is it just about baskets and eggs and family parties? Well, today is about something that's so much more than baskets and eggs and even family. All of those things pale in comparison to what we're actually marking and commemorating today. You see, the reason that we're all here in this packed church today is because today is the most solemn day of the church year. Today marks the defeat of death. Today, the tomb is broken open. Today, the powers of evil are conquered, where death and sin don't have to have power over you and me. Last night, these 5 people, unlike most of us, these 5 people who got initiated into the Catholic faith, they got to experience in a profound way this conquering of sin and death. They got to make this decision to choose Christ, to choose to follow him as adults. Most of us here did not make those decisions. That decision was made for us. No matter whether you were baptized as an infant or as an adult, Christ has come to rescue you and to conquer sin in your life. Some of you might be thinking to yourselves, and you're probably wondering about these 5 people last night, well, good for them. What about me? What does it have to do with me? What about the mess that I find myself in? What about all those things I still feel guilty about in my past? And what about all those ways that I feel that God cannot forgive me? Well, I want to give you an image to explain this a little bit better. Some of you might remember something that happened about 6 years ago. This was in 2018. Garnered some rather significant news attention. So in Thailand, a group of 12 boys, they were all on a soccer team. And they and their coach decided to celebrate one of their birthdays by going through this underground cave system in northern Thailand. They walked in when it was dry, but what they didn't realize was that monsoon season was just beginning. And while they were inside the cave system, it started to downpour outside the caves. Water was rushing in, forcing the boys to keep going deeper and deeper into the cave to the point where they couldn't go any further. They were more than a mile inside the cave. They were trapped with no way out. So for the next 18 days, if you remember this, the world kind of held its breath as government officials and emergency personnel were racing against the clock to try to not only locate the boys, but to bring them back safely. Of course, nobody was prepared for an underwater rescue in a cave system. That just doesn't happen. You need special equipment for that. And it would take a 2-hour swim just to go in and to locate the boys. But once you do find them, how do you get them out? How do you bring them out more than a mile out of the flooded caves? This was an incredibly risky operation the divers faced. And so after much planning and in a short amount of time, they had 17 cave divers go in with a mile of rope and 200 air cylinders and about 10,000 volunteers outside the cave. So the divers went in and they eventually found the boys. They got them all saddled up. They put special equipment over them to give them air. And they led them back through the mile-long cave system so that all the boys made it out safely. This was perhaps one of the most daring rescue missions ever attempted. And what does this have to do with today? Well, it has everything to do with today. Because this is where he comes in, that one up on the cross. By going to that cross, Jesus has given his life for you and for me, precisely in order to rescue us. Do you think that was easy for him? Probably not. Jesus was just as human as you and I was. And do you think that Jesus had all kinds of help along with him, like those rescue divers? No, Jesus had no help. He went and did that all by himself to save you and me from our sins. It's almost as if he went all the way down into the dark cave of sin and death, to the point where you and I find ourselves and where we can go no further. There's an ancient story in the Christian faith that goes something like this. It's that Jesus goes, after he dies on the cross, he goes with his cross as his weapon of victory all the way down into the darkness and the depths of humanity, where our first parents and everyone who's come before us, all of humanity, has been trapped. He goes down there and he grabs our first parent, Adam, by the hand, and he pulls him up and he says, "Awake, O sleeper, and rise from death, and I will give you light. I did not create you to be held a prisoner in hell. Rise up, you who were created in my image. Let us leave this place, and I will enthrone you in heaven, which has been prepared for you from all eternity." You see what God has done for us? You and I have been trapped in this cave. You and I, who were once trapped before our baptism with no way out, he came and he pulled us out and rescued us. And throughout our life, what do we keep doing? We keep crawling back into that cave. We don't like the light. We crawl back in to our favorite sins, our favorite bad habits, our sadness that we just let grip us down. And we go all the way down to the depths of our guilt. And we need Jesus to reach down and pull us out again and again and again, so that we can stand in the light and not be slouched down in the dark. When these boys were finally discovered deep in the cave, you can imagine the condition they were in. They hadn't eaten in 18 days, almost 3 weeks. They suffered from oxygen deprivation inside the cave. They were pretty disoriented. Well, that's us. Whenever we crawl back into that cave and we don't choose to live in the light of Christ, we're emaciated. We're deprived of that oxygen of God's breath flowing through us, and we're weighed down by everything else that pulls us away from God. And yet, Christ keeps coming back to pull us out of that cave. So if it's really true that Christ has come to our rescue, then that brings us to the third question. What's expected of you and me going forward? How do you respond to that? Well, if you were trapped in that cave like one of those boys, and thousands of people were teaming up to come more than a mile to come get you and to pull you out and to rescue you, then what would you say? Would you have anything to say to them? Everybody, what would you say? 2 words. Thank you. Or 1 word. Gracias. Dziękuję. Come on. The boys in Thailand were rescued, and while they were in the hospital, they filmed a video of them, and they all said in their native language to their rescuers, "Thank you." The only appropriate response to someone who has done something incredible for you. Brothers and sisters, if God has rescued me from sin and hopelessness, if he has reached down into the cave and dragged us out of that place of darkness, then would you simply go on living your life as if being a Christian meant nothing to you? As if God had done nothing for you? Or, like these children who have such an openness in their heart, would you get on your knees and thank God every day, making sure that from now on, every moment of your life you would appreciate because you are fortunate to have been rescued by God? Friends, if it is true, then it demands a total response from us, a total dedication of our lives to the one who has saved us, and a total commitment to now go get our brothers and sisters who are also still trapped in that cave of sin and darkness. And like you and me, they need to be rescued too and pulled out from the mess that they're in. So let's celebrate, everybody. Celebrate this Easter by thanking God for rescuing us, and let us now respond accordingly. Happy Easter, everyone.